for that. Okay, so the first topic there from chapter 1 is enums. So just to give you, to go down through that. So you should be familiar with all of this. So it's just kind of a recap. I've written notes in here as well on any of the code examples that I have, and they are all saved on Dropbox as well. So you get a copy of the code yourself. I mean, you can print it out then, whatever you want to do with it. So firstly, I always say that an enum is where you're making up your own data type. So for example, enum, whatever name you want to give it, so that's like a class name, and then the values that you have there. So the values there are in capital letters to signify that they're the same as constants. They do remember their own position as well. So red is at number 1, amber number 2, and green number 3. And you can retrieve them then in a loop as well and loop back through the values. So an enum can appear inside a class or as like a file on its own. So it can be declared in its own file, and then you use the word enum instead of typically class, or you can pop it into a class as well. Just watch out if you don't have public. So if I pop public here, firstly that won't compile, because if you have a public enum or class, it has to be in a file with the same name, and it's not. But if you don't have public, it does in fact have default access, the same as the class would, and therefore I would not be able to access this traffic lights enum outside of the package because it has default access. So just watch out for that. So I have a main method below. I'm just going to move it up here so we can see it. And there we go. I'm just going to move this up, just up to the top. So I'll get rid of that there for a second. So to declare an enum, the same as you declare a variable, it's a data type, whatever name you want to give it. So I don't know, ch1 equals, and in Eclipse you can do control space and to give you the option there of the only 3 possible values. But when I put it in there and semicolon, it's going to put in the enum name and dot and whichever value that I want to pick. Enums, I can't put anything else there. It simply would not compile. It has to be one of green, amber, or red. So watch out for that. And then you have to put, the prefix there in front of it. So if you have any questions, just shout as we're going along. Because what I'm going to do there, I'm going to move my main down lower and just look at a more advanced example. So have here cup size. Now, I'm just reading some rules I have here as well. You can't put an enum inside of a method, so that's not allowed. So it has to be either inside a class or kind of at a class level on its own, like in a file of its own. Now, see down here, spot the difference here. So small, medium, and large, they are the 3 values. I'm going to take that out there. Just pop it in there last night. I'm going to take that out. So small, medium, and large, but this time, there's round brackets after it, and I'm saying, well, the value for small is actually like a value stored internally in the file or inside the class or inside the enum. So 25, 40, and 110. If you have round brackets after the actual value of your enum, you have to have a constructor to match. So I have a constructor. So again, a constructor, same name as the class. Because 25, 40, and 110 are either integers or maybe doubles, you'd have to have your constructor to take in the type that matches whatever is in those brackets. Now, I have that value, 25. It'll be passed in automatically to a constructor. You never call the constructor explicitly. I'm going to pop back in my main method here. So if I want to use that cup size, so cup size, your data type, C1 equals, I'm typing U there, it's not what you do, control space there, pick one, so medium. So that's still how you declare an enum. The enum name, dot, and whichever one that you want to pick. Internally, what it does is it calls a constructor for medium. It will pass 40 down into the constructor. This is called automatically in the background. It's assigning 40 to a private member variable, so enums can have member variables. And if I want to retrieve that value of 40, I put in a public method called getVolume. So on my enum down here, if I want to print out that actual volume, So volume and concatenate that on. So it's my enum and now dot, my enum name C1 or my reference to it. And I put in a method called get volume. That will retrieve, that will retrieve there the internal value that was set up there with medium. So an enum in that case can have a constructor, the same as a regular class, can have member variables if you want more than one, the same as a regular class, and methods there as well. Now,
can you call that C1 dot value?
C1 dot value?
Yeah.
C1 dot value. There's dot values that will give back the array of each one of them.
Oh, okay.
But not dot value.
But you cannot call straight away the private int.
No, that's the same as a regular class, so it's not accessible outside of the class. So the only way to get to the member variables, if they're private, is to go through a public method that accesses them.
But if it will be in another class, because now you create a special class for enum.
Yeah.
If you will put that inside the class.
If you put like oh yeah, so inside the class, you see here inside get volume, it will have access to the member variable.
But what I ask, if you will put that enum cap size inside the class, inside another class, I don't know.
Okay.
I have for the cap size enum, yeah.
I have that down here, Chris. So good question. Okay. So the enum is used in here as a member variable in another class. So now, how would you get the volume from there? So cup size is my enum. Coffee is just a regular class. So cup size is now a member of another class. So how do I get the volume from here of that enum? So I have it down in the toString, cup size dot get volume. Okay. Do you see there? So cup size is the enum. And again, when you do a dot there, you'll only get access to the public methods from that enum. And that's how you retrieve the private member variable that's inside that enum. Okay. Do you see? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, so just to get to the tricky bit there now, I have a get lid code there, and it's use lid B. So we'll say that lid B is going to basically fit on a small and a medium cup, but it's not going to fit on a large cup. So if you have a method that you want to act the same for some but not all of the values, then what you need to do, I need to override this method, but I want to override it only for the large value. So what you do is, it's called a constant specific class body. It allows you to put what looks like a class up here directly after the value. So there's your curly brackets for a class. And inside that class, as it is, you override the method that you want. So whatever method from below is, you override it in here. Now, the quickest way for me to do this is, well, I can do control space and get volume, or sorry, get lid code is the one I want to override. I can go that way, or I could have copied it and pasted it in here. If I override it, I get the annotation to say that compiler makes sure I override it properly, that it's public, that I don't reduce the visibility, that I don't change the return type, and that I make sure I don't put in any parameters there. So that's a message to the compiler, make sure I do this properly. Now, but I don't want to return the parent one. So I want to return here. So small and medium, use lid B, but if a large one there is, I want to say, then in this case, we're going to use lid C. Okay, so that's a really tricky thing about using enums. You can have this class or constant specific, I'll get the correct name there. I'll say that again there in a sec. So basically, I want to, for anytime I have a large cup size, I want to override the lid code and not use the kind of default one here that applies to small, but I want the large there to have its own. So it overrides that get lid code. So I'm just going to write some code there just to test that out. So I have a medium cup size created here already. I'm going to pop in here another one, so a large one this time. Cup size, we'll call this C2 equals control space. Pop in large. And now if I do a printout of both of these, so I want to see which lid to use. So actually I won't do the printout here. So C1 dot get lid code, and I'm just going to repeat that there for the second one just so we can see the difference. Actually, I'll concatenate on here as well. I'm just going to put in C1 on its own and put in a space between the two. So you can print out your reference to an enum and it will print out the exact value, but it'll be in capital letters. So it doesn't look the best. But now, just so you can see the results of the two of those. A constant specific class body, that's what that's called there, constant specific class body. So it's a class body specific to that constant, and it allows you to override any methods that are below. And then when you, or when I call, we'll get this right here, C1 and C2, when I call the lid code for C1, it's not overridden here, so it will use the general one below. But when I call get lid code for C2, C2 is a large cup size. It is overridden the get lid code, so it will go into the class specific or constant specific class body here and execute the one that's overridden. Yeah. Does that make sense there?
Yeah. Again, this is all familiar. I'm just taking notes there, so could you just scroll back up so I can see the constant specific class body?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, it's just... Is the override there mandatory, or is it just...
No.
Okay.
You don't need that. That's just, it's known as an annotation, and just say, compiler, make sure I override properly. So absolutely, you can take that out.
Grand.
So if you have, like if I put, let me see, if I put in just int A in here, so I'm overriding. Now I have, it's underlined in yellow because I haven't actually used it. If I put in @override, I'm now saying, compiler, make sure I override this method properly, and now it won't compile, because the compiler will say, listen, you haven't overridden it properly. You're not meant to have a parameter in there. But if I take out @override, now I'm saying, you know, I'm not specifically saying I'm overriding a method. In this case, now I'm overloading. So the @override is just a message to the compiler to say, make sure that I override it properly.
Okay.
So no, it's not needed there. You can, of course, as well there, I printed out just down in main. I printed out just C1 is the reference to the enum, and C2 is the reference to the enum. If you print those out, it's going to print out the name of the enum. You can, of course, override the toString if you want to, and you could turn that into a lowercase letter or something like that. That's fine the way it is.
Real quickly on the constant specific class body. God,
yeah.
That's a mouthful. The curly bracket semicolon is just for the constant specific class body there, is it?
It is the curly brackets. A semicolon, you have to have in, you see, I'm going to go back to the easier enum there. There's no semicolon.
Yep.
But if I put in any other code in here, like a member variable, just to make it anything here, now, I thought I did need I thought I needed the semicolon there, but actually I don't. Take that out. Now it does need it. Okay, and now look, I've recompiled the one above. I'm sure I need that. So you need a semicolon after the last value if you insert any more code into the enum. If you don't have any other code in the enum, that semicolon at the end is optional. So here, it's just because I have a member variable, constructor, and methods below that semicolon is required. That's the reason that it's there.
It wouldn't be required if you had the Well, actually, would it be required if you had the values there? So small brackets 25. That now you need the. Do you need the semicolon because now you have a constructor?
Yes, yeah. Because I put in these values and the round brackets, I need a constructor for those.
Yeah.
And because I have a constructor, I have more code below, therefore I need the semicolon.
So what would that look like if you took out the constants? Would the semicolon just go after large there?
Exactly. It just go
Okay.
right there where I have the cursor. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Now I'll do. Is that okay there, Aaron?
Yeah, that cleared that up.
Okay. What I'm going to do, I just have an example here of an enum inside the coffee. So a coffee as a member variable can have a cup size. So just how is that declared? Actually, in that one, if I say coffee, coffee C, cup size is below, we'll call it coff there, equals new. We can go, yeah, leave it a coff, equals new. So I'm creating an instance of coffee the same way as I would create a parent, a child, a bank account, whatever, any object. I have a constructor here that takes in the cup size, takes in an enum. So if I was creating that one instead, and I'll call the other constructor here, just to show you how to pass in the enum. Now, so in here, so this constructor needs a cup size enum. So cup size dot pick whichever one. So there we go. I'm going to print back. I'm just checking in my coffee class. I have a toString in there, and the toString, you can see there, the toString prints back the cup size. So I'm just going to do, if I print out coff2, that will call the toString in the coffee class, which will, you see here, it'll print the toString. It'll give back coffee cup size, it's printed out exactly as it is. The value of the enum, which I chose medium, so it's just going to print out medium. And then I add on, go inside that enum and retrieve the volume for that cup size. So that's how you can have an enum inside a class. So you can use them separately or use them inside a class as a member variable.
And if you didn't override the toString, would it just print out medium in like block capitals?
If I take, I'm just going to comment that out. Now, you'll see, this will answer your question there now. If I don't have the toString, can you remember?
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Package name, class name, and your hash code. Rubbish, absolute rubbish. So in this example, it makes more sense to the toString in, because now I can add in, the toString is supposed to return all of the member variables. So now I'm adding on the member variable, and then I can go one step further and add on, the member variable from the enum as well. Do you see?
Sandra, what will be the story? Because now you are using the separate class for enum. If you will declare the enum in coffee, exactly in the coffee, it will do exactly the same?
No, the code will need to look a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut this out, and I'm going to move it to declare it inside the coffee class. So it's embedded inside the coffee class. Now you can see here, what I need to go one step further to declare the enum. So see here on line 24. So cup size is not visible, can't be resolved. It's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So because it's physically inside coffee, anywhere I declare it, I have to prefix it with coffee dot. You see that?
Yeah.
So everything has to be prefixed with coffee dot. See there. And just again down there. And I'm missing bits here. Cup size, just fix that. Now, capital C there. Look. A bit of a mess here. Just that one. So see, if it's physically inside of a class, then you have to go coffee dot cup size dot small, or whichever one.
Okay.
So that's the difference. And all other code there, just checking, all other code there is exactly the same. It works fine.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Right. Just I will move it there back again, just for the sake of if you're looking back over the code again, just to leave it in a neater state. And one last thing in main, what I want to do is I'm going to loop through the values of that. So back here, I just want to print out my small, medium, and large, or loop through all the possible values in that enum. So loop through all the possible values in the enum. Now, a for loop, I'm going the right-hand side of the colon. My enum name is cup size, and I'm doing a dot. If you look down there, you can see one of those methods returns an array, and it's this one here. It returns a cup size array. So dot values will return an array. Left-hand side, declare one of what's in that array, and it told me it was a cup size array. So I'm going to type in here cup size. Give a name for one of them, it doesn't matter, C. And now inside the for loop, I just do a print out of C. Now, so that's in my main. I'm just going to execute that, and we should see just a small, medium, and large printed out. So that's how you would loop through the values in an enum. Gives back an array. You can pop that into your enhanced for loop, and then the left-hand side, one of it declares, it returns an array of cup size values or objects, if you like, and you can print them out that way.
Sorry, I just missed some of that. So the values there, is that something that? Sorry, I missed a lot of that. Is that something that's inherent to enums, or is that something you have to declare? Sorry.
Yeah, it's specifically in the enum class.
Okay, so it is. It's just a method of the enums class that can get the values of. Okay.
Yeah. So that's specific to an enum. It'll return an array of the values inside the enum. Yeah. And one other thing while we're in here, I'm just looking it up here. So C dot. This is specific as well. Do you see there ordinal? So ordinal means a number, and it returns the value's position in the enum declaration. The initial value there is 0. So at the beginning, I said the first one's at position 1, so it was a bit of a lie. So, and the ordinal there, I'm going to add that on. I'm going to add it on actually, print line. So C.ordinal. I'm just going to stick it on the same line here just so you'll see it. C.ordinal, to put a space in between these. So ordinal, again, specific only to an enum, and that is the position. So on their position, so you can see that. So dot values gives you an array of the enums values so that you can print them out. So C there, that's each one, you print small, medium, and large. And on the value there, you can get the ordinal, so it knows what position that it physically appears in the declaration. Yeah, I'm just going to comment that in, pop that in here. Any questions there? Because that's enums there done.
Is that literally all that's being covered for enums?
Yeah.
Because okay, that's pretty much what we've already done, so that's fine. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just give me a second. I want to just take a quick picture of the for loop there, just a section there, so I can.
Yeah, and this is all saved on Dropbox as well. I moved it all over there last week.
Yeah, I'm just taking notes right now. Yeah. Great.
No problem. Probably the best thing to do there as well after today's session is just have a look at the questions at the back of the book. Any other questions there on enums?
pretty much it. Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to stop recording just so I can put these up separately. Do that. Stop